Welcome to the Mobile County Public Schools Athletic Show. My name is Brad Lowell, Athletic Director for the Mobile County Public Schools. We're here with Davidson High School today and Coach Barbosa. Thanks for being on.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you being here this morning.
Well, thanks for having me.
I know it's a busy time of year, and really volleyball just ended, and I know you picked up volleyball this year, coaching volleyball. So tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you started and how you ended up at this point at Davidson.
Okay, well, I taught at Baker for 20 years, and I was on again, off again, coached there. I coached the varsity team for 3 years, and my claim to fame there is that we went to the state tournament 2 of those years, so very happy to have been involved with that program. And I got to coach my daughter for a little while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was nice. And so I've transitioned to Davidson the last couple of years and decided I would step into that position as head volleyball coach there.
Well, not many people can say that they actually made it to the state tournament.
Right.
I mean, that's very difficult to do.
Right.
I know you said you spent 20 years at Baker, and that's a long time being at one place. So how has the transition at Davidson been?
It was a little hard for me last year just because, the people were so welcoming and it's such a great environment, but it was just a transition for me. And I think volleyball actually has made it better because I've become an instant part of the community. So that's been nice. It's a little hard being an English teacher and taking my essays to tournaments and things like that, but it's been worth it, and I've had a nice little run there. So.
I know being an English instructor and especially teaching higher level Englishes, you probably do have a lot of reading to do, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, and going back and mentioning, being on and off a little bit, coaching volleyball, how did it kind of land in your lap this year at Davidson? I know you mentioned that you coached a little bit at Baker and those few years where y'all really played at a high level.
Right.
And then just kind of getting back into it. I know that had to be kind of a new transition also, like you said, not being at a new school, but also picking up volleyball again.
Right.
How's that been for you?
It's been good. Mr. Richardson, Jason Richardson at Davidson we've known each other for a long time, and he kept seeing me in the hall and saying, "Hey, Coach, how are you?" Instead of Mrs. Barbosa. And so we both knew it was going to happen.
To coach volleyball.
Well, no, I came in as an English teacher, but we both
needed
kind
some
of
help.
Yeah. So.
Well, I know, and of course, Mr. Richardson was at Baker for a long time.
Right.
So that had to be kind of neat going from working for his dad for a long time and now working for Davidson.
And when I was when I was interviewing with him, he said, "You'll be the first person to go from Richardson to Richardson." So there are actually 2 of us who moved over at the same time. Jonathan Bearden is one of the assistant principals, and so we moved over together. So,
well, that's kind of neat. And you mentioned, how is it coaching your daughter too? I know a lot of people don't get to do that.
Yeah, and it's great in my memory, but the reality was kind of rough. I would give her instructions that she wasn't sure I was qualified to give or whatever.
Right.
So actually, that's when I stopped coaching. I pulled her up her sophomore year to the varsity, and we realized it wasn't going to work, and I didn't want her to give it up, so I gave it up again.
Yeah, I could see, me having girls myself, I could see how that would be. It'd be neat in one way, but then it would be tough to be,
it was
okay,
tough.
I'm going to coach you, and then we got to go home together.
Yeah, right. And I had a great JV coach that I knew really wanted to step into that varsity role, and, I was ready to get back to my English classroom, so I just let her come in, and it worked out just fine.
Well, tell us a little bit about your girls this year that you had at Davidson.
I've got a great group of kids. They're very scrappy. They cover the court really well. They've got a lot of work to do, and they have not had the benefit like some of the schools have of playing since they were little. So I've got kids who were on my team who had never played before. I think the most anybody had played was 3 or 4 years. So we've got a lot of building to do, but they won quite a few more matches this year than they did the previous year. So.
Well, I know you mentioned, you brought up a good point. And back when I played, there wasn't a lot of club around. There wasn't a lot of, but it seems to this day and time, kids specialize in these sports and they play the same sport
Right.
year round.
Right.
How has that really impacted? For example, you probably have a lot of the kids maybe at Baker play club.
Right.
They've been playing for a long time, but
Right.
then you get the girls at Davidson who hadn't played a lot of club. I mean, that's a big difference.
Right, and even at Baker, we had started, Barbara Henry, even before I was coaching there, started a program called West Mobile Volleyball, and we used the gyms at the different elementary schools. So we had these kids playing from 4th grade through middle school, and it was a great little building block. And some of my girls do play club, and part of me, I'm sure you feel the same way, part of me wants them to play volleyball all year, and part of me wants them to play other sports, so they're using different muscle groups.
That's
and
right.
Avoiding injuries that happen because these girls are playing year-long volleyball. So I have mixed feelings about that, but we have a few who play club, but not everybody does yet.
And we talk a lot on the show. We bring in coaches and discuss the difference between specialization of concentrating on one sport compared to, playing multiple. I'm a firm believer to play as many sports as you can in high school. I think it builds a better all-around athlete.
Right.
And like you said, I think it's a lot of wear and tear if you do specialize in one sport and play it all year long.
Right.
Because you're using the same muscle groups over
Yeah,
and
and
over.
we've got some crossover too. We've got some volleyball approaches. We've got one called the slide that looks very much like a layup. And so if I've got kids who have played basketball, I can just say, do your layup footwork and hit the ball.
Right.
And so that kind of thing. Softball players do well in volleyball. Tennis players, a lot of the movements are the same. Yeah. I really appreciate it when they play other sports. But that seems to be moving, and we're moving away from that. So.
Yeah, and I hate that because I think it does take a little bit away from the overall school's athletics.
Right.
Because a lot of times, in order to have a lot of teams and you have to share athletes, but if they're not playing multiple sports, it's hard to find enough to really not only build teams, but also compete at high levels.
Yeah, in fact, this season, the basketball team comes in sometimes when we're in the gym, and one of the kids said, see that basketball player? She's the best volleyball player at this school, but she doesn't play.
Right.
Because she's playing club basketball, so every time I see her, I say, hey, think about trying out for volleyball.
Right. Well, that makes sense, and I think it's good to encourage that for sure, and to build on that. Sometimes, like you said, they will. Sometimes they won't.
Right.
So, well, Coach, we got to go to break. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
And it's definitely a pleasure to meet you, and hopefully your tenure at Davidson goes well.
Yes, thank you.
This year.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back after the break.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Abby Dinkins. My children go to E.R. Dixon Elementary School. The education that my kids are getting, it's tremendous. There's one time that I thought about homeschooling my kids because I wasn't sure, we're new here. And when I enroll my children at the public school, and I'm just blown away because the teachers are nice, the curriculum itself is different. I believe in Mobile County public school education for preparing my children for life. I've bought smartboards out there.
Each month, more than 90 guns are reported stolen from unlocked vehicles, creating the potential of serious injury or death.
Lock it up.
Many violent acts and crimes are committed with stolen guns.
Lock it up.
According to ATF, stolen guns pose a substantial threat to public safety.
Lock it up.
Be responsible. Take time to record your handgun serial number and secure it from thieves. Lock it up.
Lock it up for me.
All right, welcome back to their show. We're here with Coach Duke. Coach, thanks for being on.
Of course. Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Who you are, where you started, and how you ended up at this point at Davidson High School.
Well, I'm Brian Duke. I'm a graduate of Mobile County Public Schools. Went to Murphy High School, swam at Murphy. I'm in my 8th year teaching, 7th year at Davidson. I coach swimming. I've coached summer league swimming. I started when I was 15 years old in high school and coached that for about 16 years or so.
Okay.
And I've also coached a lot of club swimming in the City of Mobile Swim Association here in Mobile, especially when I was getting my education degree to get a job as a teacher.
Right.
I coached there year round, and in 2016 CMSA, I was one of the assistant coaches, but the club took 7 kids to the Olympic trials, and we've had a lot of kids from CMSA, from various schools in Mobile in the area, go on to Division I schools. So I've worked with a lot of swimmers on a lot of different levels, from teaching 4 and 5-year-olds how to establish body position and rhythm and breathing, to getting to watch some kids swim at NCAA championships and Olympic trials, which, it's fun to watch the development of athletes at all levels, because that's what we're getting into, is seeing, progress and helping and learning. So that's kind of my swimming background. Teaching, I'm a social studies teacher at Davidson. I teach world geography right now, and I'm also teaching IB history of the Americas.
Okay.
So it's a little different than swimming in some ways, but keeps the day filled with a lot of different activities.
Sure. Well, it sounds like you stay busy.
Yeah.
No problems there. Well, I think that's, taking the history or the background of what you've done in swimming, and I guess taking all that experience of coaching in the club area, and like you said, through the City of Mobile and through their swim program, and so, taking it to Davidson High School. I know y'all have been fairly strong in swimming, especially for the public schools over the past few years. Tell us a little bit about what you do with swimming, kind of where y'all practice, and just a little bit about how swim matches go. We don't talk a lot about swimming on here, so that would be kind of neat to figure out the logistics behind it.
Yeah. Right. We swim at we practice at the Chandler YMCA, right close to our campus there at Davidson. We go in the afternoon, and they've been great hosts for us. We do have some kids that swim year-round for club. And you wanted me to talk about my approach to swimming, or like how it's set up in the season?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what y'all do throughout the season, how it's set up.
Yeah, we're a fall sport, so we start basically with football and volleyball in August, and our sectionals will be the weekend before Thanksgiving, so we still have 3 weeks to go, and then state's usually the first weekend of December. So, we usually get in the middle of August and start swimming, and then September and October have some meets, and now we're starting to really gear up and trying to focus in on some specific events. We have, I think, maybe 14 boys, 12 boys qualified for sectionals meet. I think we have maybe 4 or 5 girls qualified for sectionals. And then in high school swimming, it's an 11 event a meet plus diving at sectionals and state. So 12 events, but 11 swimming events, 3 relays, 8 individual events. Swimmers can swim 4 events. No more of 2 can be individual. So you can do 3 relays and individual, or 2 and 2. So you're trying to find the right combination, because sometimes it just doesn't make sense to swim an event that's back to back, and sometimes a kid's 2 best events
might be
cancel each other out. So you got to figure out, is it going to be more beneficial to the team to have you in a different event? So in terms of that, but in terms of training with the high school season, we don't swim twice a day at Davidson, and we don't swim on Saturdays and all that. We do have a weight training program that's very beneficial. Some of the other coaches run, but we do a lot of speed work, a lot of get up, race rehearsal, try to swim as close as you can to meet performance in practice, and that's just kind of my philosophy of, we want to practice how you want to race, and if you practice at not your best, you're not going to have your best when it's time to get up on the block and it matters.
Right. Well, so how many, and I know you were mentioning this, I know you have swimmers that are fairly strong in multiple events. How many total events can they actually do in a meet?
They can swim 4 events in a meet. 2 of them can be individual. So of the 3 relays, swimmers could do 3 relays and then 1 individual.
Okay.
But they'll never do more than 2 individual.
And that's the most they can do.
Right.
But they could do 1 and 3 if it was set up that way.
Right. They could do 3 relays and 1 individual, but you can't do 4 individuals.
Okay. All right, and is that kind of hard to kind of figure out what's best sometimes? I mean, I know it's kind of like, you know, you had to place, it might not be their strongest maybe, but it might be the best place for them to be for the team.
Right. I think you just kind of keep team first focus, and help everybody understand that we're doing this for this reason, you know.
Right.
And I think luckily the stronger swimmers understand that. You know, people understand that.
Because you have individual scoring, but you also have team scoring.
Right. And relays are very beneficial because they're double the points.
Right. Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So the better you are in the relays, the more points your team's going to get.
Right.
So, well, that makes sense. And you mentioned about sectionals. Where do sectionals are held?
They'll be down at Bishop State here in Mobile the weekend of, I think, the 22nd, 23rd, Friday, Saturday. Friday evening, and then Saturday morning.
And then if you say qualify there, you go to state.
At Auburn.
At Auburn. So how many times do you have many kids that qualify for state each year? Or?
Yeah, last year was really a pretty outstanding year. I think we took maybe 15 or 16 kids total. We were lucky. We had 2 girl divers, twins, the Wilson sisters, who finished 3rd and 5th in diving at state.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then we had a girls relay go. We have a couple boys divers last year, and they're seniors this year. But then we had all of the boys relay qualify, and I think I don't want to leave anybody out. We had several swimmers qualify individually.
Yeah.
I think we had 5 in counting the diving. I think we had 7 boys score individually at state, on top of all 3 relays scoring.
Well, that's pretty impressive, yeah.
So the boys finished 5th in the state last year, and the girls finished 15th. So
that's good.
It was, yeah.
That's a good year. How high is the diving platform?
They go off the 1 meter springboard.
Okay, just a springboard. And what are fundamentally, what do they do off the platform?
A lot of the divers work with a club coach year round, so I'm gonna get out of my depth of knowing exactly what they do. And using too many technical terms, but most of their dives have to, I think, have some element of a twist or rotation somehow or another.
And how's that like scoring? I mean, because when I watch the Olympics, you know, I know everything's about how tight they are,
right?
And then
execution,
like the splash,
entry, and then also with diving, there's degree of difficulty that some dives they can score more points based on the elements included. Now, getting down into the nitty-gritty of that, I just go with what the computer puts out.
No, I understand.
But you know, you've got to have everybody has to have a few dives.
Certain requirements.
You have to have a dive that's this level. You can't just go in and have all your dives be the highest. You've got to have one that's a lower level. So I think there's some standardization that somebody could only do adequately at really high level of degree difficulty.
Right.
But yeah, beyond that, we can talk to some of the divers Parker on.
All good. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on, and good luck this year in your sectionals, and hope you all have continued success for sure.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back after the break.
The Mobile County Public Schools Signature Academies program offers a variety of specialized curriculum for highly interested and motivated students. These academies provide students with choices ranging from aviation to healthcare, advanced information technology to international studies, from engineering to coastal studies. These high-quality, hands-on programs prepare students for careers readily available in Mobile County. Signature Academies program.
Welcome back to our show. We're here with Coach Cawley. Coach, thanks for being on.
Of course, glad to be here.
Appreciate you being here. Well, football's over this year, and I know it was kind of your first season as Davidson High School football coach. Tell us a little bit about the transition this year and kind of where y'all are at this point and what to look for the future.
The first year is always hard. When you're talking to the guys and stuff, sometimes you may not feel as engaged with them as you probably would at somewhere where you've been a long time. You just don't have the time with them. But, the season did not go, like we'd hoped, wins and losses. 3-7 year is not what they're accustomed to. It's not what I'm accustomed to. It just sometimes that's what happens. You lose your quarterback early in the year, and thank goodness we had a kid move in, or we would have really been in trouble. But the kids played hard all year. We were in some games there that could have went either way that would have put us in the playoffs. We lose to Murphy by a touchdown, and that is pretty much the game that kept us out of it. And Theodore, we were right there to the wire. Same thing with Fairhope. So we're not far off, but still. You can't put up too many 3-7s and stay around. So we're going to look to do a little bit better.
And I think too, you have to look at. This year was their third head coach in 3 years. And it does take some transition because you're talking about those freshman kids, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors had 3 head coaches. So I think the model of consistency as you start to really build this program is going to help.
Yeah, and it will. But the kids that are there, you want success for them too. So while it's a process, at the same time you want to. Those kids put in a lot of work. They put in a lot of time. Davidson's their home, so you want to send them out winning.
Sure.
So even though you understand the situation, you try not to. I don't know if use it as an excuse is the right word, but you don't want to lean on that because you want those kids to be successful.
That's right. Well, as you venture into the off season, and what do y'all do? What are y'all plans? Do you give them time off? Do y'all start kind of right into weight training? What is the outlook as far as working to next year?
We'll start testing this week for the weight room so we can get everybody grouped. The freshmen have been out now for 2 weeks from their season, so they're a little bit ahead of the older kids, which is good. And then we'll kind of transfer those into varsity players. I told the juniors the other day that they're now will be called seniors, same sophomores will be juniors, and those freshmen are now sophomores. So the football coaching calendar runs different than a school year calendar. Our calendar, the next season begins when that one ends, and that year ends, in November usually. So that's kind of the way we do it, and we're looking forward to the off season. Some things that some things worked, some things did not work. Trying to mesh things of old and things of new, you're going to do a little bit better of that moving forward. So we're excited about the off season. Well,
and I know you're kind of still learning a little bit with the school because really you haven't even been there a full year yet.
No, not yet. And I learn something new every day. Davidson is a great school, and they've been successful at a lot of things, academically especially lately. So learning how they do things and where you fit into that is sometimes challenging, but at the same time it's necessary to kind of go through some things so you can see the best way to navigate the landscape.
I know, talking about your kids and like you said, just transitioning to next year, do you have a lot of kids that play multiple sports at Davidson or?
We do. We have a few that play basketball. Most of them run track or play baseball. So we do have multiple sport kids, which we encourage. I just believe that the more you compete, the better you're going to be. And these days you get to work with your kids in the off season, and that's great. You kind of your hands off on the kids who are playing another sport. And I just feel like when they're going to do that, it's the same thing as what they would be doing with us. They may not get to run routes and catch balls and things like that in the afternoon, like some of the rest of them, but they will. They're competing, and that's the important thing.
I talked to a lot of, most show I try to bring it up because I'm a firm believer just kids playing multiple sports. I think sharing athletes is so important. You get locked into those specialization sports, and not only do kids I think burn themselves out so much, and especially of a lot of the smaller sports, but also I think it's important to share athletes to build better all-around athletes.
Yeah, I think what we're supposed to be doing is building great all-around people. And, you know, whenever, let's just use the sport of baseball, for instance, because they do have a fall league and all that stuff. So whenever you decided, okay, my kid's a baseball player, and that's all that they play, and then they don't get a college scholarship, and then they just, what are they then? The kid has defined himself forever as a year-round baseball player, and now baseball's over, so what am I at this point? And I think that's not great for kids. You know, there's a very small window in this life where we get to use the word play. You know, once you are done playing, like I don't get to play anything anymore. I go to work every day. You know, I may play with my daughters at home, but I'm not playing. So whenever you get to use that word, I think you should. I think you should play everything that has ever crossed your mind to do. You need to go out there and try it so that you don't live with regrets.
I agree. I mean, that's a good point. I think you should do as much as you can while you have the opportunity that you can, because at some point it's not going to be there.
Yeah, it goes away really fast, you know. And having finished the season Thursday, and you have the seniors who it's hitting them that it's over, and there are no guarantees of another game, and you know they're always emotional, and you always want to tell the young kids, now look around this room at how upset they are. You know, you only have 1 year left and it goes by, and you know, seniors will tell you it goes by so fast.
Well, tell us, are you losing a big group of kids this year? Do you have a lot of younger kids? What's the makeup of your team?
Well, we finished with about 78 kids, and I think we had 22 seniors. So, you know, it's the normal amount, I think. We got a lot coming back. We had a huge freshman class. We had 42 freshmen, so we have a lot of freshmen, so that's good. You don't always hang on to them, but you want to hang on to about 30 of them if you can.
Yeah, and I know y'all do a good job there with your weight program. Do y'all lift them pretty much throughout the day? Do y'all have a certain where you bring in everybody? How do y'all break that up?
Well, in the fall, we get the freshmen first thing in the morning, and then second and third block is all sports. So we work out female sports with male sports. Second and third block, it's a co-ed thing. Coach Massengale runs it. He does a great job with it. He's one of the best strength and conditioning guys you can find anywhere, and we're lucky to have him. And then fourth block is varsity football. Now, we'll take the seniors and we'll rotate them into first block so that they can continue to lift weights. Right. And second and third will still be for your other sports. And then fourth block, we'll take the freshmen and we'll move them in with the remaining players and start getting them ready for the next football season.
And I wanted to mention that because I think all athletes lifting is so important.
Oh yeah, every athlete in school has the opportunity to lift. Now some choose not to, and you know it's up to their coach. If their coach says I want them in there, we put them in there. So we'll roll through that weight room in a day. I mean, we'll roll 120 kids through there easily. So it's a good number of kids.
Coach, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
In the show, I appreciate you being here, and I know you're already looking forward to next year. And,
oh yeah.
And I know I am too. So thanks again. All right, that concludes our show. We'll be back next week.